Hey guys, quick note before we jump in. You know I'm all about helping you see what your blood sugar is actually doing in real time. I've been wearing a continuous glucose monitor for over 5 years, and right now I'm using Signos. It's the first FDA-cleared AI-driven app for weight loss and metabolic health. If you've ever wondered, is this food actually spiking me? Or why am I crashing at 2 p.m.? Signos shows you in real time. It has changed so much for me. You can save 20% off their subscriptions by typing in the code KAITYM at checkout, KAITYM. Head to the show notes for the link to their website. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. If you've been around here for a minute, you know that I talk about continuous glucose monitors or CGMs a lot. I've been wearing them for over 5 years as a non-diabetic, and it's truly been one of the most powerful tools in my health journey and a reason behind GLUCOSEGLOWUP and why it exists. I just did a ton of research on glucose and insulin and just metabolic health in general and how it impacts us in so many ways, more than just you have diabetes if you have a glucose problem. It's so much more than that. And I've done the research and put the time in, and a continuous glucose monitor has been one of those tools in my toolbox that has been really effective. So recently I got a chance to try out Signos. You may have seen some videos and blogs on my website and social media, and I said yes because I was very excited to try out another software that's out there and just kind of see what they're doing differently in the CGM space. And so it's an AI-driven app that uses CGM, and they use the Dexcom Stelo. So it's paired together to kind of give you insights on what's going on in your body, how food, sleep, exercise, all of that is affecting you. And so Signos has a unique spin where they are sort of targeting weight loss. They're using it, as someone, they're targeting someone who would be looking to lose weight. So that's kind of the basis of Signos. So I did do like an onboarding blog on my website, so glucoseglowup.com. And in this podcast, I just want to kind of go through my week 1 and 2 experiences and just overall what I liked, what I didn't like, and just sort of my overall honest take on Signos for weight loss management and just overall glucose and health insights. So let's get into today's episode. Hey there, I'm Katie, and welcome to the GLUCOSEGLOWUP Show, where I'm making blood sugar balance for non-diabetics not just important, but actually fun and approachable. I'm a girl mama, problem solver, wellness advocate, and someone who turned a deep dive into metabolic health into real-life results, like healing my insulin resistance and unlocking my fertility journey. This podcast is your backstage pass to everything I've learned and I'm still learning about glucose, longevity, how to beat your cravings, and stop feeling hangry. Why does this all matter? Because when your blood sugar's in check, everything just feels better, from your mood to your energy and overall health. Here we'll talk about glucose tracking, eating for balance, optimizing your health, fertility, navigating the healthcare system, a holistic approach to wellness, and biohacking your way to feeling amazing for years to come. I'm in the trenches right alongside you, working daily to manage my own glucose and have more energy for the things I love. So whether you're ready to kickstart your health, deepen your understanding of how food impacts your body, or just want a relatable space to learn and grow, you're in the right place. Let's get glowing. All right, so what is Signos and why did I decide to try this out? Like I said, Signos is a weight loss focused CGM program, so it pairs the Dexcom Stelo sensor with the app that analyzes your glucose, your behaviors, food logs, and movement to help you make choices in real time, and it gets smarter over time as well since it's AI driven. So I really wanted to test this out because I already use CGMs pretty regularly. I've used a mix of other softwares, just the software that the CGM comes with. And so this was just like another avenue that I could see what's out there. And if it's another tool, that would be great to recommend to people. I already teach people how to understand glucose, so I felt like this could be a really unique opportunity to share some more data as well. And like I said, I'm just curious about new tools that make managing and tracking your metabolic health easier. So this is actually the first FDA cleared over-the-counter continuous glucose monitoring system that's cleared for weight loss management. So by pairing the over-the-counter biosensor with the AI-driven app, Signos is able to deliver actionable insights based on your real-time glucose data. And it's like I said, the system that helps people understand food, sleep, stress, exercise, how that all kind of impacts your metabolic health. And then it provides that guidance and support to create sustainable habits. So it does that through suggesting things, okay, so let's say you ate something and it was like, I think you should go for a walk, or maybe you should bump up the intensity of your movement based on what you're eating, and like it maybe starts to understand like how much of a spike you're gonna have. So it can make recommendations like that. Can become more personalized over time. And it also uses millions of data points, is what they say, from different logged meals, workouts, and other habits. So over time, it's going to continue to deliver a more customized and tailored plan to the individual, but it is kind of pulling from other data points initially to make suggestions for you. And of course, like over time, the long-term benefits are really keeping your glucose levels stable. And we all know, if you haven't heard me say yet, but like it's going to lead to better energy, your focus, your mood. You're going to reduce your risk of chronic disease. And, there is that sustainable weight management and weight loss component as well. If you are managing your glucose and insulin, you should be able to manage your weight better or lose weight if that's a goal. I do want to say here that, if you have diabetes or you're on insulin, this isn't for you. If you have an eating disorder or a history of one, also not a good idea, just due to maybe overfixating on what you're eating, and it's just not really a great space to be in if that's the headspace you're in, or you have a history of maybe just chronically watching every single thing you're eating. But if you don't have that, then it is kind of a nice tool to be able to see the trends and have something that will help you interpret that data. The more feedback you give the app, the better it's going to get. So let's just get into week one. I was just sort of getting to know the Signos app. I mean, it's just when you start doing anything new for the first time, and you're just kind of getting your bearings and trying to figure out where things are and what they look like, and reading the how-tos and all that. So my first impression was the app was really clean and I felt like it was easy to read. I didn't have a hard time finding things, I wouldn't say. It was just getting used to a new app, which I said is normal. The first week for me was really about finding my groove and learning the app experience. Like I said, I did do an onboarding with Signos blog post, so I can link to that in the show notes for you to check out. So there's a few big features that almost any CGM software has. So you've got your logging meals and snacks, and once those are logged, the app is used as a tool to either help predict what will happen or show you what's happening in real time. So there's kind of a couple ways you could use it, right? So you could use the meal logging ahead of time and see, okay, well, that's maybe going to impact me at a high or moderate impact, is sort of what Signos does. They'll say this is what is expected. And then and then you could kind of change your mind. Well, okay, if it's saying it's going to have a super high impact, maybe that's not what I want to have today. But you also could do it in real time, and then, there's not much you can do at that point if that's what it's saying. But I've done a mix of both. So if I already kind of have a pretty good plan for the week, I could log that ahead of time. It does save time because it is kind of putsy, right? Like entering every single thing at a time. But sometimes unexpected things come up. So it is, you just enter it as you go. I wouldn't say that it's a huge deal that you enter everything, but sometimes it is nice. And with Signos, like I said, the app is going to tell you what to expect. If it's in real time and your glucose, it will say like it's rising fast. And there's a timer feature that kind of, it's like fast rise is predicted, move now. It kind of gives you like a 5-minute timer. I think it has some good intentions, but it sort of feels like the app's like shouting at me, like you need to get off the couch right now and start walking. I mean, I think like it could be good for someone, right? Like if you're in like the weight loss space and you kind of need that like kind of nudge, like, hey, I think I should like go for a walk around the block. I think that's good. For me, like I have some anxiety, so I'm like, all right, is the anxiety of this timer kind of worth it? I don't know. But I do, like I said, understand the accountability factor. Instead of maybe this timer or shouting at you, could we shift more towards like analytical or explanation of the meal and snack choices? The prediction that, okay, yes, I understand that this like fast food meal is going to create a high impact on my glucose, but could we also provide like an analysis, like a way I could do something better or a score, of the meal or something so I can kind of see like what's working and what's not working. The Insights tab does show your biggest and smallest spikes, which is helpful. So, showing how much of a rise each meal caused is helpful, but I wonder, could the AI functionality provide a little more insight there? A few notes on the food logging. I honestly didn't feel like the food logging system was super intuitive at first. You can search for foods, you can type or talk to the app, you can scan barcodes, you can do all kinds of things. But there were some things like when I was trying to change serving sizes, I kept accidentally hitting between the back arrow and like canceling the meal. I'm like, am I saving it? Am I canceling it? Do I go backwards? Like, you hit the arrow back to just go back and like keep selecting more foods. It almost feels like you're erasing it at first, but you're really just keep compiling until you hit like the final like create meal. So there was some things there that I was trying to get used to in week 1. And then in week 2, I would say like AI kind of it starts to learn more. It has more information on you and just kind of what that starts to look like. So like after a week of data, AI is starting to notice patterns, which can be helpful, especially if weight loss is your goal. And you can kind of start to get into the groove with tracking and knowing your way around the app at this point. So I felt like it was something I was excited to check and see my progress versus another to do. There were a few things, though, I would say in week 2 of using Signos that was interesting. So it's a weight loss tool, right? So when you first go and open the app, it says like what's your current weight and what is your goal weight. Like that is an emphasis that they put on there. And so I personally don't even have a working scale in the house right now. It's so I don't, exactly know how much I weigh unless I've done like an in-body scan at the gym recently or maybe had a doctor's appointment. I don't know what's going on with our scale, but it's not working and it's not a priority for me to know my exact weight. So I just put in like approximately or whatever my last weight was at my most recent doctor's appointment. So I'm not tracking my weight every week. This was my goal at the moment is not to lose weight. I'm perfectly happy how I am. So I'm using this app as more of a glucose tool and just seeing the insights I can gain from it versus how much weight can I lose? But so initially I did put in the weight and then it's like, what goal weight do you want to be? And so I just put in a little less, like a few pounds or whatever, just to kind of see how that would work in the app. And then in week 2, it kind of asks you every week, like, okay, like how much do you weigh or do you want to log that? There's also a component where you can log your weight. And I just noticed that when I went to my, metabolic tab, that it changed my weight like on its own. Like it decided based on, I'm assuming, based on my food logs and calories. It it skewed the number to be what it thought my weight should be based on that information. So I thought that was a little strange. So I just like put it back to where it was, and then it hasn't done that since. But I will make a note here that if you are trying to lose weight, you should be logging as close as possible to what you're eating so that this app can give you the best information possible. Because if you're just kind of like, whatever, I'm just kind of like guessing or guesstimating like my stuff, I feel like you're going to get more out of this app if you really go all in and are really meticulous about your tracking and like telling you what you're eating. But overall, I thought this like kind of like adjusting my weight thing was a little strange. But if you are using this tool for weight loss, that shouldn't be an issue for you. And just another thing I want to call out, just because I've been wearing a CGM for so long. So, like I said, Signos uses Stello, the Dexcom Stello, which is the over-the-counter CGM. And I did a full review of just Dexcom Stello in itself, so I can also link to that. But this is the only one, like it's a package deal. You get the CGM and the access to the app. So I will just say that this is not just Signos, it's just I'm pairing it with Signos because they only use the Dexcom Stello. So my week 2 average glucose was higher than week 1, and I was double checking on my glucometer, and the CGM was running super high. I mean, 30 to 40 milligrams per deciliter higher than what the glucometer was saying. So this is really normal with any CGM. So if you're not double checking occasionally, I feel like this could be discouraging, especially with the Insights tab and the overall stats being about staying in range and not having many spikes. If your CGM is running higher or lower, you're most likely not getting 100% accurate insights in the app. So if you're not getting 100% in range or your average glucose, is kind of wonky from previous weeks, I would just say this is a little nuance of wearing the CGM. And if you track long enough, you'll be able to see the impact. But I think clinging to those exact numbers and like how much percentage, I was in range and all that, like if it starts to get like really wonky and you just know like you've been off, like that's different. But if you're kind of clinging to these numbers, I feel like it can become all consuming and you're like, oh my gosh, like I just want perfection. Like that's like my personality and it really irks me when it's really like the CGM not, being accurate. And there's really nothing I can do, right? It's just luck of the draw, essentially, because between week 1 and 2, like I still was like really great numbers, but my averages went up a little bit on week 2, even though I didn't really change that much. And it was the CGM. I just felt like it was a little wonky from the beginning. I feel like I get that every once in a while. I don't know if it's placement of the CGM or just the hardware itself. Like, again, they're not 100% accurate, so don't be all consumed by those numbers, is all I want to say there. Okay, I just want to go through some things that I liked about the Signos experience because I really genuinely enjoyed Signos, and I currently, at the time of recording, I'm still wearing CGM using Signos. I feel that I don't want to spoiler alert, but I feel like it will be something that I will continue to use as part of my journey in health tracking because I felt like the overall look and feel, it was clean, it was simple to navigate, it wasn't very overwhelming. You get that visual graph that you can kind of move and toggle between meals and snacks throughout the day. You can kind of pinch the graph to make it, more condensed or more spread out. You can also look at individual meals, like just that part of the graph of an individual meal. I love the graph. I mean, I share screenshots of that quite often on social and in my blogs. So I think the graph is just it's really working well. Another thing that was, I mean, I'm going to say it might be my favorite part of the Signos app was the Insights tab. So each week you're gonna get one of these like metabolic scores overall, based on like your numbers, like your time in range, your spikes per day, your last spike time. Those are the three big things that are being tracked often, like they're on the homepage of the app. And those are kind of the three big things Signos talks about. But you also get a daily score, like how much percentage you were in that day. So it'll be like color coded, like green, yellow, red, like if you just weren't in the range enough, or if you were like really good, you're going to be in green. The glucose variability is also on the Insights tab, and that's how much variability there is like throughout the day. So if you're spiking plus 70 milligrams per deciliter from your baseline glucose, your glucose variability is going to be pretty high. You would like it to be 15% or less, and that's the number that Signos is using. So they have goal numbers for you, right? Like how much time you should be in range, spikes per day. I mean, you don't want to be spiking all the time, and spike is going to be dependent on like that top range on your graph, which starts at 140 milligrams per deciliter. So if you go above whatever that range is, that's considered a spike. Quick side note, I did notice that even exercise spikes count. So that's where when I say, don't make it all consuming, like I deep down know, like I had a really hard CrossFit workout and I spiked at that moment or in that day. I'm not gonna like give myself a hard time because the app is saying like I had a spike and then I had more spikes than maybe I wanted, Like if you kind of understand what kind of spike it is, I think it's going to be okay. Again, like I said, the variability metric I think is my favorite because it like doesn't just give you just overnight or, one specific number. It's just using that percentage of how much your glucose is moving up and down. And that's maybe my favorite part of wearing a CGM in general. So I think that's a really awesome metric to be looking at versus the exact baseline glucose number you had and what it spiked to, like those exact numbers. I would love for you to be looking at the variability of your glucose. Something else I liked, and this kind of goes into the spikes a little bit, but I wrapped up week 2 and then the app told me, well, like you're doing so great. Like, what do you think about lowering your target range from 140 milligrams per deciliter down to 130 milligrams per deciliter? So if I go over 130 on the app, that's going to be counted as a spike. So I said, all right, fine. I will take on the challenge. Fine. Move it to 130. I'm up for the challenge. And it did make me think twice and I stay more intentional when I was like, okay, I have not actually had this in other apps that I've used where it's changed my target range or even made that an option. So 130, for me, especially with exercise, I mean, I feel like I did get a little bit closer to that. I didn't have a ton of spikes in these weeks that I was wearing this, but it was really cool to be like, okay, you've noticed that I did really well, and now you're gonna help me like kind of up the ante a little bit and like let's challenge myself. Because otherwise, I feel like I could just be like, la di da, okay, 140, that's, not so bad. But this like really made me think, and it made me think like before I ate things like, do I really want to see that spike go over 130? Because I'm like really want to push myself. So I really enjoyed that component of Signos. I feel like, especially from a weight loss standpoint, it's pushing you. It's like that accountability factor. Like, hey, like you're doing really good, and now like let's step it up a little bit. So I really liked that. Workout tracking. Workout tracking, you can log a workout in real time, watch your glucose, heart rate, calories burned if you're like pairing that with your Apple Watch. I did not do that. I love that concept that it's there. I just logged my exercise. There's a whole bunch of different things you can put in there, and then you just say what time, and then it just ends up on your chart, your visual graph that you see that was from exercise. Just it's just in line with all of your meals and stuff like that. I did kind of like the meal logging and like AI kind of taking what I've typed or whatever and trying to find it. I think there was some things that it was like they didn't have in their database or whatever it is. So sometimes it's like just taking the time with anything like this meal log and stuff, just taking the time to like input the stuff that you like. Maybe that's Sunday when you've made your meal plan or whatever it is. I mean, they have so many different options. I think that was what I liked about the meal logging, the photo, the typing, the talking, or just like searching for individual things. Like whatever is your jam, like you probably will be able to find it as far as meal logging, so that's really nice. Something kind of interesting if you like have another friend, in using Signos, you can challenge them. Maybe it's a weight loss challenge or workouts or like let's challenge each other to stay in range. I don't know. That's kind of cool and motivating that if you're in a group setting like that I don't know, I feel like it's other fitness trackers do that. I feel like that's kind of a unique thing that could be interesting for someone that's on a weight loss journey specifically. What needs improvement, in my opinion, this move now timer. I don't know if we can do something about that. Again, I talked about this a little bit, but maybe like a meal analysis after instead of like just yelling at you. There's like the daily score, but you're not really getting like meal scores. You can go into an individual meal and like there's a drop down to expand it, and then you'll see like your chart, and then it'll say this had a 30 milligram per deciliter increase. And then on your insights tab, it does say, it just give you like your smallest spikes, your largest spikes, like those meals are listed, but there's not just like a way to just kind of analyze a meal per se, and then like searching for past meals, giving them scores. So I think like there's maybe some room for improvement there. There is just something weird going on with like changing the serving sizes or amounts of food. I'm just still a little bit out of the flow with like, am I hitting the back arrow? Am I hitting save? There's sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. It's really wonky. Like if I added pecans and I just searched for them and I added what was there and I wanted to adjust the serving size. So when I click on the pecans and then I adjust the serving size, I kept feeling like I was hitting cancel and I would undo it and then it would take me back to the screen again. And I was getting really frustrated, but it didn't happen all the time. So if you click on it from one screen and not the other, it doesn't do it. So if you go into the meal and then adjust the serving size, that's where I was running into an issue. I think if you search right from the search bar and hit pecans and adjust the serving and then add it, I don't think I was running into this like arrow or like cancel issue, but just a little something clunky going on there with adjusting serving sizes. I think the black and white spike thing could be, like I said, discouraging. So I don't know if there could be like a weighted system where, an exercise spike doesn't count as much. I just feel like, again, if I'm doing something good, there are good things that spike your glucose, namely exercise. So could there be something else there? How I personally use Signos. So, like I said, I'm not right now using this as a weight loss tool. Again, I don't even have a working scale, so you can laugh at me, but I was using a lot of tags. So you can kind of make notes and tags and like, okay, I had a stressful meeting or this happened. And like, I don't know, the tags are really working for me because I felt like it gave me an opportunity to provide more information, or you can add notes to meals. You can save custom meals. I really love that. Or like you can create a custom meal, or you can just like take everything you just inputted and make it like a favorite. So you can just like go back. Like if I'm gonna eat my protein mug cake every day this week, I don't want to input or scan that. So I just saved that and just click the whole meal is just there for me. If there's little nuances that you need to change, you can do that, but that's really nice. Again, I focused more on the insights and variability and just behavioral patterns. I loved the metabolic insights that you get. There's a lot of like, educational things in there too. But again, the app is always going to be more accurate the more you log. So I feel like some days I got a little lazy. And so then, AI is depending on my data, and so I'm trying to be more intentional about adding as much as I can. The tags and notes kind of help me to remember what was going on at that time. And then, even then, like let's just say like I got busy, like I would like write a quick tag, like saying like what I had or whatever, or what was going on. And then I went back later and like added my meal or whatever, because I just didn't want to remember, I didn't want to forget, like when I had that meal or what it was. Like I can forget so easily. I don't know if it's mom brain or what, but so I just loved the tags and like adding notes and just looking at individual charts and seeing like which meals were most effective too. That's kind of what I was liking about this app. I just want to talk about my overall thoughts of Signos as a weight loss tool. So Signos, again, it's FDA cleared for weight loss. That's kind of what it's being marketed as. And so like these are kind of my thoughts on that component of it. So wearing a CGM doesn't magically drop the pounds. It absolutely increases awareness and accountability, but just because I put a CGM on my arm doesn't mean like I'm definitely dropping 20 pounds in the next like 3 to 6 months. Like that's really unrealistic because you still have to put in the work. There's awareness, like I talk about a lot. You need to be aware of what you're putting in your body, and there's accountability, right? It's like having a coach on your arm, a coach in your phone, or a mirror, like reflecting back, your choices in real time. But, so if you weren't really aware of how food was impacting you, it does prompt you to make changes. So you're going to get out of it what you put into it, right? And so, AI can give you all these suggestions and all the stuff, right? But again, if you're not tracking your meals or your exercise or whatever it is, you're not gonna just drop pounds. Like you have to actually put the work in and be like, okay, like that cheeseburgers and fries that I got from the drive-through wasn't really a great choice, right? Like it's an accountability thing, and then you have to decide like what you're gonna do about it. Like what foods are working for me to help me have, a lower glucose variability. I'm going to go back to that number. So like if your glucose variability is like 20, 30, 40%, it's like all over the place, that's a problem, but you're like becoming aware. So I do feel like, yes, you can lose weight if you start to just make these small changes. I think early on in a weight loss journey, I do see people losing weight quickly because all of a sudden it's like, well, holy crap, I didn't even realize I was eating so much or so many calories or whatever it is. But, just kind of going back to some of the science, if you understand glucose and insulin and remember that insulin is a growth hormone, it does make sense why balancing blood sugar is key for weight loss. Food is converted into glucose, like we know. Glucose is our main energy, and when there's excess, that gets stored as fat in the cells. So the more this happens over and over again and long term, that's where the unwanted fat mass increases. And, of course, sleep, stress, hydration, movement, all of those things impact glucose. So this food journaling aspect of Signos and highlighting your habits really does give that extra push, I feel, and it could help you lose weight. Just a quick plug. I know this is not like a weight loss episode, but you can't stay in a calorie deficit forever. So if you're trying to just keep reducing calories and that's how you're losing weight, like, yeah, that is a component of it, but you're not always gonna see that. Like, that's not gonna work long term, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think like another component that could be interesting in Signos is like your body composition changing because that is also key and doesn't always, translate into weight loss. So let's just say you put on muscle because you started lifting weights alongside wearing a CGM. Like you're going to build all these other habits while wearing a CGM, right? You're not just gonna sit on the couch and like hope that this thing works. Like it's just sort of this tracking and awareness piece. But if you're, let's just say you're, like I said, lifting weights and you've put on some muscle and your weight didn't go down, but your body composition changed, I would still say that's a win, even though the Signos app is saying your weight's the same. Your goal weight might not be the weight that your body wants, right? Like I struggled with some of this for a while and it's like, your body is going to tell you like this is you can eat what you want, right? Like, let's just say you have a really balanced diet. Like there's a certain number of calories your body's just going to be happy with, and then you're not going to be changing weight. So if you're trying to force yourself to be a weight that's not realistic, then this isn't the right tool for you. But I think like body composition is something to consider in this. We're talking about it as a weight loss tool. But you're going to see improvements with all these other habits, the food journaling, the exercise, hydration, sleep, stress reduction. Like you're going to be a healthier person overall, even if the weight doesn't change as drastically as you thought it would wearing the CGM. So, yes, I think it's great that it's a weight loss tool, but I think maybe some like body composition insight could be useful or some education around that as well. I just want to talk about pricing really quick. So there's a starter plan. So that's just like a 1 month commitment. That's $2.99 per month. They also offer a 3 month plan, which is $199 per month. A 6 month plan is $169 per month. And with this, you get access to the Signos app and two CGMs per month with all of these packages. The 6 month plan ships in 3 month bundles. This is according to the Signos website. Currently, Signos does not have the option to bring your own CGM. You just get this all as a package deal. So you get the welcome kit with sensors, performance covers, and setup instructions. Just one quick note that I think I forgot to mention. I feel like the performance covers, they're like kind of hit or miss. I mean, they are super cute, but they didn't stay on very long. I don't know if they were like quite big enough to fit over the CGM. One of mine didn't even last 1 day, so I think it depends a little bit on maybe how it was applied, or I feel maybe it got stuck on my clothes. I don't know. It just didn't stay on super well, so I did go through those a little bit more. But the package I think had like 6 of them. Again, it does not affect the usage of the CGM itself. So back to the pricing. I do believe in investing in your health. I also think 1 month might not be enough time to really get into the flow unless you really are just like, I want to see what all the hype is about and I really just want to try. I don't want to make a big commitment. Like 1 month seems like something I can do. I think 3 months is a great start. It really gives you that momentum. Like feel like the second I take this off my arm, I just feel so strange because I've been wearing it for a month and I'm almost like addicted to seeing the progress or just the steady numbers, and it feels so weird when I take it off. So I feel like 3 months would be a really great start for someone. For 25-pound weight loss, the Signos website actually recommends a 6 month plan, but I do think that would be really individualized based on a lot of factors, right? I mean, I don't think anyone could guarantee how many pounds you're going to lose just by putting a CGM on your arm. Again, we talked about a lot of those factors, but that's sort of the pricing deal. I do have an offer from Signos for my audience for 20% off those monthly subscriptions. So if you visit the link in my show notes and you use KDM at checkout, KAITYM, that's the discount code that will get you 20% off. So I would love to know if you try it out. Just let me know, DM me on Instagram. I would love to get your thoughts. And then finally, I just want to talk about like why to consider the CGM software outside of just the manufacturer's app, like the Stello app. So I think like using a CGM app beyond the basic manufacturer app can make a huge difference in just understanding your data. You get more interpretation, the ability to add more notes and like have deeper assessments of what's really going on. The graph is definitely more intuitive. You can move it around, expand and just see the full view or see just like a couple hours. I think it's easier to slide through, giving you just a clearer picture. I think the graph for me like is really great and just overall offers that interpretation and analysis, like the glucose variability and the meal logging. It's just especially helpful when you're trying to make some real changes and not just seeing like the numbers and like, oh, your glucose is going up or it's going way down. I think it has way more customization to your health journey if you're using the software, an additional software that's kind of meant for more interpretation and analysis. So the verdict is I really do think that Signos is great. I would give it a try if you're looking for an accountability tool. It's paired with the over-the-counter CGM, but they have it all in this one package for you. Signos is, going to help interpret and guide you on the journey. Again, like there's a lot of education in there. The AI component, it's like having a coach. So I think it would be a great tool. There's a few quirks, but I think you can get a lot out of it. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And I think, being on these journeys, if we put in the work, there's apps like Signos that are going to help us create the discipline and the habits that we need to make the change. So I'm going to keep using Signos as part of my journey, and I hope you give it a try. If you do, or if you have more questions, you want to see some more screenshots, I'm going to be linking in the show notes to the blogs that I've written and just a little bit more info about Signos itself. But again, if you have more questions about Signos, DM me on Instagram at GlucoseGlobe. Would be happy to answer those questions or anything that you have on CGMs. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Share it with someone you think it would benefit or is thinking about getting a CGM, trying it out. Share it with them and let me know what you think.